Good morning, afternoon, or evening, and welcome to the Hayseed night, where these three need to find a place to hide in. Anna quickly tapped her nose and motioned her friends to follow her as she jumped back into the sewers, clearly set on a target.
That's the spirit, boss! Lead the way! Come on, Majesty. I'm sure that once we got a moment to sit down and rest our hooves, it'll all start making sense again.
If any of this starts making even an inch of sense to me, you can just go ahead and let them skewer me with my own horns.
Seb climbed back down into the sewer entrance, closely followed by Anna's snickers. Ada remained on the ruins for a moment longer, engrossed by this last chance to marvel at the scenery ahead.
Hey, Sep, you get a feeling this place looks familiar somehow?
It's just the view of the palace.
Right. That gotta be it.
What Adder didn't say back then, and probably never said to her until the day he died, is that he had just figured out the reason why their beloved low-tide peach was always so empty. The trio diligently followed Anna's lead through the tunnels, none of them particularly willing to joke around or carry any light this time around, lest they attract any sort of extra unsavory attention. They walked several blocks upstream, taking turn after turn through the many meanders that diverged in the darkness. They knew their exit was near when the brown streams nearly dried out, and the bricks covering the ceiling to save the city from the sight of their own waste got scarcer. Soon, they were trudging through an open channel that delineated the beginning of the sewers as repurposed irrigation ditches from times where the slums had been filled with industrious researchers and architectonic projects. A time before the Barhan Rebellion and the expropriation decrees, before slander had become synonymous with murder. Now, the gutter was as safe a place as any to walk in the district. They followed Anna for what felt like hours until they finally emerged on the serrated edge of a cliff.
You could tell how much I love high places, I see.
Seb glared at Anna through a pressed grin. The smith smirked back, showing every last tooth.
Need me to carry you?
Not in front of that varmint, I don't.
Anna was rather certain this was not the case, however, and selflessly volunteered to the task.
What? You think you're... Put me down, you beast! Put me down!
Anna ran ahead, carrying the screaming Sep in one hand like a hot dish.
Would you look at that? Y'all seem like such good friends already.
Adder followed the girls up the narrow path ahead, skirting the vertical climb, until he reached a rundown house that was dangerously close to giving up on its foundations and just falling. His lips formed a very concerned line as he found himself on his own doorstep.
Hey, boss. Since when do you know where I live?
Shut up. This is your house? The house you share with Gioff. You mean to tell me he's been living like this?
Seb's horrified expression only lasted until she remembered the company around her.
Hira be blessed. When you said you both lived in a shack, I assumed that would entail a building with a minimum of 4 walls.
Hey, it ain't so bad. We got 3.5, and a wonderful backyard with its own outhouse and everything. It's the brick box at the edge of the cliff.
I really should have taken you to the doctor before bringing you anywhere near me.
Seb made to step into the house, prompting Adder to casually put his whole arm across the threshold.
You know what? Now that I got a moment to think about it, I don't think this is such a hot idea. I'm not really allowed to bring guests over.
I'm sure the occasion merits an exception.
Maybe. But maybe actually truly we ought to hide somewhere else. Like a dump. I mean, it smells almost the same, but without the danger of running into my landlord.
We have far more serious problems than Gyoff right now. Move!
No way! Nope, nuh-uh. You know, if it was about me, I'd say my home is your home. Except it's not. We can't hide in there. If I dragged any crap in, Mr. Bard would murder me.
You are going to get murdered either way, Adderson! Just let me take a bath!
Bath?
Yes, Adder dear. Lead me to the place where you purportedly used to wash yourself after roaming the streets before I stupidly lent you my own.
That'd be ain't his tub, but boy, oh boy, there's no means to justify that end. No offense to your soap-making skills, boss, but I'm pretty sure those were just lye bars. I swear I was yellow all over before I started using that thing.
Though dawn soon was a suffocating season to its very end, random licks of fire and strong gusts of hot wind, full of embers, weren't exactly commonplace, much less so specifically placed behind two people. Both Adder and Aina turned around slowly.
I don't much care where or how, but I was promised a bath and a modicum of peace for going through with this stupid plan, Adderson. If I have to make you build a bathtub and fill it with your own tears to wash myself, I will.
That was a promise, not just a threat.
Well, if you ain't picky as long as it makes me cry, I know a place we could go. Mr. Bard said there used to be a decent hammam down the street, but it was shut down a while before I arrived. They found the owner dead in real mysterious circumstances. No knife wounds or bashed in heads or nothing like you see around these parts. They say the bath's cursed now, and anyone who comes in never comes out.
I think I'll take my chances.
Yeah, sure thing. What's a little more curse than matter at this point? Right this way, then.
I dare not repeat the words Seb saved for Adder and his boss as she was surreptitiously led back into the sewers, seeing as the gates to the baths were still locked.
Knock, knock! One fresh bucket of our finest water coming up for her grace.
God! How is it so cold?
We should be thankful the pump's working at all. Scrub 'em leggies like you mean it, or you won't be getting into the pool.
Hold on. Is this what I think it is? Bath episode?
Lynn, stop that. You're going to smear the ink.
This sure brings me back to my water selling days. Speaking of work, Aina, how are we doing over there? Boss, don't be like that. You know baths are good for you. Do we really gotta do this whole dance every time? Give me that sponge. Hey, come here. I gotcha! There's no escape now, you filthy rascal. Brush, 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 cleaning up the little boss.
Once satisfied with his work, Adder locked Aina's head under his arm and dashed to the contiguous form room. It wouldn't be completely out of place to say Adder dunked a quasi-sparkling Aina into the pool.
And you better not go crawling out till I tell you. You hear?
Aina raised her head over the water like a grim apparition, hair on her eyes and murder all over her face. Her vengeance could not come to fruition, for it was misplaced by the side of Sep's body clad in nothing.
What? What did Ina see?
A towel.
What?
Sep was wearing a perfectly decent bathing robe under the towel.
No, she wasn't.
Everyone wore perfectly decent, family-friendly towels and bathing robes beneath them.
I'm 14, not stupid.
Her vengeance could not come to fruition, for it was misplaced by the side of Sep's body clad in nothing but swimwear under a towel.
I swear to you that the first thing I'll do on my right day is come back and rewrite this.
Be that as it may, Aina could have set some world records on the speed at which she paddled to hide her panic.
Oh, look. The shy little cabbage is finally showing her true colors.
Sep followed her leisurely, running a hand between the threads of long silver white hair floating aimlessly in the water.
Wow. Your hair color looks even more unreal than the dye, doesn't it? Like fine spider silk in the moonlight, or the world's finest linen thread. To be honest, though, I only thought it looked like rice noodles when I was a child. Yum.
Sep glanced back at Adder. He was preoccupied, brushing his antlers ferociously in the cold room. A rare moment removed from Adder's overprotectiveness for the both of them.
So you really don't remember me at all, do you? Who knows? Maybe you just need to take a closer look.
Never one to miss a chance to make someone else falter, Sep casually wrapped an arm around the shorter girl's shoulders.
Then again, I don't look anything like the child you knew, do I? I used to have really stubby arms and legs, so much so that Illigrab started calling me Pumpkin. Actually, I don't know if he started it, but it caught on. I became Pumpkin first and Sep second.
Sep's hand sauntered towards the top of Aina's head.
Well, anyway, whenever you carried me, he'd say it was so sweet, we looked like a pumpkin pie. Can you imagine that? You were anything but sweet carrying me back there.
The taller girl's fingers slowly traced the outline of Aina's increasingly red ears.
But you were always so patient with me when I was a child, remember? You even let me chew on your ears whenever I was scared. Could it be my fault they look like this now?
Aina shrugged her shoulders way past the line where any shoulder is supposed to elevate.
You don't know? We could always check.
Sep made to take a small bite out of the tip of Aina's right ear. In the last moment, she craned her face to rub her cheek against hers instead.
Honestly, I think I prefer it like this for once. You don't need to remember you ever knew me, Aina. I want you to see me as I am.
Hey, what's going on over there?
Sep moved a smile away from Aina's face, leaving a flustered mess in her wake.
Nothing. Just watching a snowflake melt in the water.
Keep on calling her cute little nicknames. See how that turns out for you.
Every last remaining boiler went off in Aina's cheeks, with the arrival of an extremely misproportioned stag coming in through the other end of the pool, leaving very little to the imagination. But just to be clear, he was wearing a towel. It's just the steam.
Right, whatever. Just let me write some steamy prose about my ancestors.
All right, everyone. soak up nice and good, take a dip in the hotter pool, back to cool, and then it's right back out. The water feels great, but we ain't got time to waste splashing about all day.
No. I need a bath, Adder. A long, warm bath for my health. Besides, it's a well-known fact that people get their best ideas while they're bathing. Though I'm sure you can't relate.
Hey now, you've been hip-deep in muck today. You don't get to make fun of me no more.
That's the thing about filth. Some of us actually rinse it off.
Anna laughed under her breath, making Seb smile in kind, which in turn made Anna skitter away again.
See? Even your boss thinks you could use more baths. It's official now.
Yeah, right. She's one to talk, so to speak. Anyway, we should be running out right about now.
Adder couldn't keep his eye from flicking towards Seb's towel as she pulled her body close enough to bump shoulders.
It's been a very long day, and you did a great job tricking the beasts. We can afford to relax at least 10 minutes, don't you think?
No, it ain't the beast what's nagging me right now. I got a bad feeling about this place. It's too fancy. This ain't what a house that's been abandoned for a year and some in Slander's supposed to look like.
And that's a bad thing, apparently.
Ignoring the very obvious one-eyed glare Adder was sending her way, Seb kicked up her legs over his shoulders and sighed.
Lighten up a little, dear. I'm sure Aina will be more than capable of arranging something for us if it turns out we are taking a bath on private property. It means you'll get to hit people very hard today if they bother us.
Aina's best attempts to look reliable and menacing were cut short by the fact she still wouldn't dare turn around to look at the ruminants behind her. So there they were, one gazelle stretching her legs, one deer anxiously glancing at the entrance, and one smith desperately trying to hide her face from the rest of the world. This quietude, of course, wouldn't last. Yeah, when does it ever?
So, tell me, Adder, is forcing your boss to take a bath part of your job description, or is that more of a labor of love?
It's a mantle I took up when I got tired of seeing her covered in soot every day. Y'all like to talk trash about me, but that's because you ain't seen Aina thrashing around in it. Bagging fleas is easier than tawing up this little menace.
Adder patted Aina's spotless white hair.
Hillegrab says her dyes used to last months before I showed up.
Adder and Aina frowned at each other. Then her tail started wagging.
Whose fault is it, huh? Who likes hopping in the mud every time it rains? Oh, yes, it's you. Such a bad boss. Yes, you are.
Adder started scratching Aina's cheeks and neck until her tail started wagging at full speed, splashing water all over the place. Smooch after smooch was peppered on Aina's little nose, while she made some very half-hearted attempts at swatting Adder's face away. The duo only stopped upon noticing the blue eyes silently judging from afar.
Oh, no, please. Continue. I have no intention of getting into whatever that was.
Hey, don't make it sound weird. I'm just glad, because I haven't gotten to be with her like this in a while.
Like this.
Seb flicked her eyes down at their, towels, then back up, turning both of their faces immediately red.
What?
To be honest, I'm a little disappointed. I was fully expecting you'd see her body and immediately say something like, "Buy touch a beard, boss, boobies," or pricks. Do you prefer either word, Aina?
Aina shrugged until she slid her whole body sans ears under the water, blowing bubbles for all response.
No way. I've seen chess before.
Mine doesn't count.
I wasn't counting yours.
I'm afraid not everyone can wear a cup like yours, Adderson.
Aina catapulted herself out of the water, banging on the edge of the pool as she nearly cried her eyes out. Adder needed a second to understand.
No, hold up. I didn't mean it like that. I'm just saying I don't care about him. Not like I don't care for him. Y'all perfect from head to hoof. I just never really thought about it. Look, I like what I like, okay?
And what could that possibly be?
Like you didn't know the answer to that question.
Oh, I'm not the one who's wondering.
Zeb raised her eyebrows in Aina's direction, startling the little wide-eyed Smith back into the water.
Sip, come on! Quit messing with us already! We ain't got time to be fooling around today! We're gonna have to go streaking through the slums if we don't wrap this up and do some laundry!
If you're so worried about our schedule, why don't you go and get a head start?
You know what? I will! Because y'all making me feel like I'm the only one with half a sense of responsibility left!
Good for you.
Adder 100% accidentally dunked Seb's head in the water as he stood up. So Seb completely by chance tugged on Adder's towel as he walked out of the pool, making him squeak. Once the storm of giggles had passed, Adder grabbed their pile of dirty clothes and a basin. He watched it fill with water, sitting down as physically far away from Seb as he could all the while.
Sip, if I didn't know you any better, I'd say you're delaying us on purpose.
On the contrary, I'm maximizing our possibilities of survival. It's a very simple strategy, in fact. If we're going to hide, there's a possibility we'll be found. And if we're found, the most likely outcome is that we'll be brought to Elbar. He won't take me seriously when I encounter him if I look anything less than perfect.
Aren't you a little bit worried he may not care a whole lot about your looks after everything that happened today?
Of course not. I don't dress to impress the people who love me. I dress to impress the people who hate me. And I undress for the sake of the fashionably challenged.
Sticks and stones, Sip.
You should have really let me buy you new clothes when you had the chance.
Yeah, well, I would have fancier stains to wash off then.
Aina poked her face out of the water and pointed at her left eye with a smile, making Adder groan in response.
Wait, what does that mean? Eye stain? A dirty patch?
Aina shook her head, laughing.
Adder, quick! I need more context.
It means I'm a dumbass who don't even know where his eye is anymore. Now, if y'all done chewing the rag, I could really use a hand with this.
Adder channeled what remained of his patience into presenting Seb with a basin full of water and soap. Seb rolled her eyes with secret understanding, bringing a hand into the bottom of the recipient. The water started to bubble into a near instantaneous rolling boil.
There. Be gentle with my skirt, dear. Silk is very delicate.
Yeah, had her do everything as usual.
Adder turned around to go get their clothes, mumbling something about delicate silks under his breath.
Well, thank you kindly for manipulating temperature for me, darling. It ain't like I could do it myself or nothing.
Seb sent a glance in the direction of her cooling down hand, opening and closing her still glowing fingers. Between the gaps, she spotted Aina's puzzled visage.
What? You didn't like my impression?
Aina tightened and loosened her hand into a fist, just like Seb had. On second thought, that was not an expression of confusion. Aina seemed absent, completely out of it. Her gaze was lost somewhere far beyond Sep's right ear, and her jaw was clenched with such strength that her mouth had almost disappeared. A completely unreadable face with intentions that remained a mystery. She finally focused back, startling Sep. In a desperate bid to stop whatever it was that was managing to set her off so much, Sep reached out for the smith's head, moved just by the vague impression that she'd seen Per talk to that before. It wasn't the whack of a cane this time, but a desperate caress. And just like it had come, it was gone, whatever it was. Aina remained completely unfazed, beyond the obvious surprise in her face from the unexpectedly kind touch.
You're all right. Everything is, well, you're here with us now, so it's about as good as it could be. Focus on that.
Aina looked around. She blinked slowly with big, dazed, lilac eyes, and then nodded, still looking a bit unsure.
I'm not great at this, am I? I'm sorry. If you're looking for a hug or something, you're going to have to ask.
It was only then that Sep realized her hands were still burning white on Aina's skin.
Amazing. You really are immune to my fire, aren't you?
What in the name of oblivion y'all talking about? Fire? Did I hear that right? What just happened here? What were you trying to do now?
Calm down. I wasn't trying to hurt her. I mean, I don't think I could to begin with. I was just trying to...
I don't give a darn what you were trying. You and I are going to have a chat on a little something called consent when we're done here, Missy. You all right, boss? You hurt anywhere?
Aina was fine, save for a huge increase in bodily temperature that had very little to do with Sep's abilities.
She's fine, okay? Well, she's kind of not, but that's the whole point I'm trying to make. I couldn't hurt her on a physical level if I tried. She's invulnerable to my magic.
So what?
An alteration in your connection to the Hatsa, remember? That's how offensive Sephihet works. You can't just grab a rock and curse it. It doesn't have blood or any adequately prepared vessel to form a connection, right? The only living creatures that are not connected to the Hatsa and are therefore immune to alterations are plants. But does she look like a Makadar to you?
You ain't making a lick of sense, Sep.
Sep put her hands on her temples, trying to make her logic make sense.
When I found Aina back in the brig, she was completely lifeless. And I don't mean that figuratively at her. She was a literal rock until I fixed that. I'm not sure of what she is, but she's not alive in the same way you or I are.
You're starting to sound like Bearbeth.
I hate to say this, but that's because he's right. Not about the golem part, of course. That's just nonsense. An object with an artificial bond would simply stop functioning if untethered, not disappear from everyone's memories. She must be a living being somehow.
She could have told you that. Sorry.
So here's the real kicker. She's not dead, and she is not alive. However, her whole sentience relies on the life essence provided to her, in the same way we rely on vegetal sustenance to keep us alive. If my deduction is correct, Aina's life force wouldn't be something organic or intrinsic, but rather applied to her and refillable. She's like a cursed mosquito, essentially. Before existing, she can recreate connections through the bloodstream.
What?
Okay, that may be too difficult. Let's go back to the facts. I deduced that the only way to wake her up would be sharing a bond with her. But try as I may, I could not form a new connection that would let me tether some of my own energy to her.
Okay, look, I gave up trying to understand this whole thing like 2 minutes ago. But that sounds to me like maybe you should try to take it easy with all the bond and stuff.
It just means that someone was dead set on protecting her from anyone else's influence. So I had to find a way to provide my own life force to refill whatever powers her connection to the Hatsa and wake her up again without a bond.
Adder and Aina just stared emptily at Sep. She sighed.
She's not alive. She's not a golem. She functions like a golem, meaning she needs external power to exist. Someone powered her up. That someone didn't want anyone else doing the same. But her source of power was broken. She needed power again.
Sep turned her hand palm up and presented her forearm for them to see. A huge bite mark covered almost the entirety of it.
So I made her bite me.
Ada recoiled in horror. Aina took her hands to her mouth.
Why would you do such a thing?
I was all out of options, and I figured the sharp teeth had to have a functional purpose, obviously. It's called science, Adder. Look it up.
Are you out of your goddamn mind? Why didn't you tell me? You could have...
Adder looked at Aina, unsure of what he was even going to say. Of why he was going to say it.
Because I knew you would act like this. Don't you get it? I brought her back to life. I brought you into my own mind. I even managed to channel your thoughts without having to say a single word to persuade you.
Sep took her hands to Adder's chest, and an ancient voice to his ears, eyes shining eerily in the reflections cast by the water.
And this is barely the beginning. Who knows what else I could achieve through these powers? What we could learn from creatures like her. If I could only find out how the beasts managed to deactivate her in the first place.
Adder grabbed Sep's shoulders and gently pushed her away, refusing to meet her eyes.
You really do sound like Bearbeth.
Adder grabbed the laundry basin and walked away from the warm room, reluctantly followed by Aina. Sep was left standing alone in the middle of the pool, dripping wet and frowning like a child who had just been told no. She wasn't just going to let the topic be, of course. She followed them into the locker room, her interest shifting pointedly towards Aina once more. Though her first thought was heading straight towards her, she decided to make a very slow and deliberate beeline towards Adder instead.
Always the hero, Adderson of the higher field, protector of lost causes, defender of what needs not be defended.
Sep smiled, throwing both of her companions off. Then she turned to address Aina.
Funny that. He really seems to care a lot about you.
Adder didn't bother looking up from the fabric he was dousing in hard soap.
What's all the whispering for, Sep?
Sep didn't say a single word. She merely had to wait patiently in front of Adder's face for the boy to bring his own defeat. She always knew how to stand and how to speak to make his throat turn dry.
So how much does she know about our thing?
Sep, please. You know me. I'd never tell no one nothing at all.
I meant about the reminders that our own little bout with science left on your body. But we're all ears if you have something you want to share with the room.
Adder's jaw hung loose as he turned his head between Sep and Aina.
No? Then I take it she's well aware then of all the nights we spent dining together in my room? Of your promise to entertain me at the risk of indebting yourself to me for life? Of your oh-so-moving proposal?
Aina took the bait, and Adder knew that Sep knew that he knew, too.
She didn't need to...
I see. So the noble-hearted Sir Adderson had the gall to swear his eternal love and allegiance to me while keeping my existence a secret from his sweetheart.
Say what? No, I wasn't keeping you a secret from her. Specifically.
But you don't deny your feelings towards her. You just so casually forgot to mention that you spent all of Dawn-soon begging someone to untie your sash. I had a feeling that may be the case.
Adder's whole face turned so red it looked painful. Still, he spoke.
Say your piece, ma'am.
I didn't think you'd have it in you to cheat on anyone, Adder.
Anna's eyes grew bigger by the second, her emotions guarded under her scowl. She observed the scene regardless.
Ilgrab roped you into this or what? I wasn't cheating with you, or on you, or whatever it is you're trying to spin this into. I ain't courting Anna. I saw no reason to tell her who I was dining with.
Those horns you were having for dinner, you mean?
Now that's not... Where the hell is this coming from, Sip? I thought you said I didn't owe you any explanations.
And you don't. We established that much. But there's a third person in this room. Did she agree to any of this? Were you so scared she would let everyone know you're a horn eater somehow?
Anna's eyes were completely fixated on his now.
Well, no. Of course not.
The tension of the situation was cut dramatically short by Sepp's sudden laugh.
Aw, did that fluster you? You should know by now I don't care either way, Adder. My business is a discreet one. I just delight in seeing you writhe under the weight of your own self-righteousness sometimes.
She turned to Anna with a grin that didn't end up quite mocking nor reassuring.
There you have it, Cabbage Head. He may be a liar and a coward, but for what it's worth, he loves you with all of his cheating heart.
I told you, it ain't like that. My conscience is clear as a sunny day, Missy. I ain't scared of what Anna thinks, because I know she don't give a friggin' bell pepper what it is I do with my life after work. Right, Anna? There ain't nothing between us.
The half-hearted nod Anna sent in his direction made Sepp's nonplussed smile shift into a smirk.
If there's nothing between you at all, then it should be fine if I do this, right?
Sepp leaned towards Adder and stole a long, hungry kiss that severed any connection the boy had to the world of the living.
Yes! Feed me!
Anna's jaw fell to the ground. She could only move an index between Sepp and Adder, failing to even form the thought required to attempt to sign anything.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did you want to do that after all?
Adder mumbled something that could have only made sense to the mind of a very touch-starved deer. Anna wielded this as the most pointed of arguments.
Ah, I see. So you did want to keep that kiss for yourself. It's okay. Here, you can have it.
Adder's kiss was returned to Anna via Sepp's lips.
Yes!
Lynn, will you please stop doing that?
No.
Everyone stared at the dust floating around in the stream. Oh, in the steam. The temperature of the locker room several degrees higher than it was when they first walked in.
That's all the reaction I'm getting? How can you both be so useless? No wonder you're so convinced there's nothing between you. I prided myself in being a better teacher than this, Adder. Wouldn't you like to share with Anna a bit of what you've learned? Or shall we go over the lessons together one last time, as a reminder?
Oh, Adder remembered. Adder remembered plenty, and he was about to give her a piece of his mind when...
That sounded like the front door.
Hey, I smell a lot of soap. Someone's been fooling around here.
No, trespassers? But the lock wasn't busted or anything. It's gotta be one of the new peeps overdoing it again. Hello? Is someone around here? You can come out. It's okay. We won't stab on sight. I promise.
What are those thugs doing here? Didn't you say this place was cursed?
It was. I mean, it was supposed to be. I told you it looked too nice to be empty.
Anna, it's your time to shine. Do something.
Anna's eyes snapped towards Sepp. The only thing that shone about her was her teeth.
I don't think it's them you ought to be worrying about.
Fine. Go keep those thugs entertained. I can handle this.
Inconsiderate as he could be sometimes, Adder would have never willingly abandoned Sepp to learn from the consequences of her own actions. A sharp slap where the tail began spurred him on, however. The next to naked Stack waddled towards the previously locked entrance, praying to every god he could name. A huge scarred whitetail and a burly musk deer turned to glare at him. Adder recognized the duo from previous instances of assault and battery on his person. Nothing he hadn't survived already, and wouldn't survive again. Adder gulped and then leaned against the doorstep, trying to block the view of the locker while Sepp escaped towards the farthest and hottest room.
Well! If it ain't Talkman and Darbon shaking up the shack. Fancy seeing y'all here.
Oh, it was someone new after all. You startled us, you naughty beanpole. What are you doing sneaking around here so early? The sun's still up.
Oh, nothing much. Usual hammam stuff, if you can believe it. This buck came here to wash up with some friends after we got real low and dirty today. Yep, it's me and my super buff friends here. So, please don't kill me.
Adder shrugged vaguely towards the steam-filled hot room.
Oh, sounds fun. Hello?
A horrible growl and a big splash echoed all over the building.
Yeah, I mean, they're kind of busy right now, doing, stuff.
Tis. This is why I hate the discreet guys. Talk about eager. I know this is slander, but sheesh. Manners, beesh. You ever heard of them? At least you had the decency to say hi. You new around the area?
No, I've been surviving uphill for a year and a bit. I'm pretty much local by now.
You pulling on my leg? No. You ski off lad for reals? Save my horns for tinder. I ain't tried to mug you since you was this big.
That's right. The fat roe was he. Oh, talk about going to waste. Oh, for shame.
For shame.
The ruffians nodded to themselves mournfully.
Why, thank you kindly. Now I think I look better too, but Stag's gotta love himself where he can, and where's the slander right now?
If I'd known you was gonna turn out like this, I would've cut you some slack.
I keep telling you, you can't rob every cute buck dry. You gotta leave them with enough to survive if you ever want a chance to find someone to settle with.
If they can't even wrestle a knife out of my hands, I wants nothing to do with them.
Adder wasn't the most perceptive of bucks, but every so often, even he could put one and one together when someone was screaming "two" in his face.
Oh, so you two were... And this is the sort of place where y'all... Oh, what the hey? I've eaten my fair share of horns already. Y'all got some lovely racks there.
Oh, thank you, sweetie. That's very kind of you. We're gonna have to work on your compliments, though.
Ha! He's ski off lad, all right. So, how come we ain't seen none of this lankiness here? Mr. Asshat didn't tell you about this place?
No, he did. But he mentioned a curse and...
Ah, yeah. The curse.
Ooh, him? That beesh only visits on 5th days. He'll have your horns before you even had a chance to say hi, if that's your thing.
Ask Geoff's lad, will ya? For shame.
For shame.
The muggers laughed loudly, shaking their heads and patting Adder's back half mockingly, half reassuringly. They only stopped their inside jokes when they realized Adder had no idea what they were talking about.
I mean, you know why Geoff is so well known around Slander, right? Why he chose to live here?
Because he can't afford to be anywhere else?
Nay, the lad loves it here. He got the smell of money to him, but says he never felt he belonged more than when he ran away into the slums.
That crazy stumpy mushroom just sprouted up in Slander one day with his hat and his dramas and his bad music. You know, Gyoff. He lived his life so carefreely that a lot of us felt kind of inspired to find that strength in ourselves, or something like that.
You saying Mr. Bard started this?
No, of course not. Gyoff wouldn't put an ounce of effort into making things easier for anyone if it cost him his life. But I guess he did kind of plant that seed inside of us.
In more ways than one.
Adder pressed his lips into an awkward line, while the older guys chuckled.
It's how it is, yeah? Lots of bad things happening in Slander, but we got enough to deal with go telling people how to lead their lives. That's why we don't let the guards anywhere around here. We figure it'd be a perfect place for a lot of folk. We may be crud, the bunch of us, but we keeps an eye out for those that got nowhere to feel home, and we'll peel the skins off anyone that dare lay a finger on them.
Aw,
Well, some of us still adore having this little bit of privacy, though.
And big hunks of bulky meat. Loads of those in rough places.
Doc May pinched Darbound's saggy underarm, chuckling to himself.
I never realized this place had so much life, I guess. Something y'all want to protect, even here. It's kind of moving. For real.
Oh, this beanpole! You're secretly a poet, aren't you? Just ditch Mr. Big Hat already. You're gonna become a star someday, sweetie. Or at the very least, a niche market speciality.
Hi! Find a whole lot of stuff to eat. You'll become the cream of the crops of Slander.
The couple laughed again, and this time Adder joined in.
Hey, speaking of eating, I'm afraid one of my friends is going to get a good bite if I don't run back soon. But, it's been great getting to meet y'all. I'll come hang out some other time, if that's all right.
But of course, dear, take as much time as you need. Just make sure to clean up after yourselves when you're done.
Don't be a stranger, lad. Say hi the next time we beat you.
I sure will. Wait, what?
The two thugs stayed in the locker room, getting ready for the evening ahead. Adder needed to get mentally ready for his own, too. He traced his friend's steps, signs of struggle, rather. Hurrying towards the room where he'd abandoned Sepp and Aina to their luck. An impenetrable wall of steam made it impossible to see anything inside. Though Adder was briefly tempted to grab his clothes and run far, far away, where he wouldn't have to deal with the fallout and the grief of whatever had become of Sepp, his sense of responsibility wouldn't let him budge. And so he walked into the room, a sense of extreme dread filling his chest.
All right, I'm here. Please don't be dead.
The only person who looked half dead was Aina, floating belly up in the hot pool right next to a sitting Sepp, thoroughly soaked and covered in shallow cuts and soon-to-be bruises. Sepp barely glanced back as she waved.
What happened here?
Oh, Adder, I don't think you're old enough to hear about it. It seems your Horn-Eater meetup went well, at least.
Don't think I can't tell what you're trying to do. And let me tell you, it ain't working.
I'm not trying anything. On the contrary, I've always found curiosity a very attractive trait.
Well, I'm real curious about getting the heck out of here right after you tell me how you managed to pull this off.
I'm not going to get a rise out of you this time, I see. Please, allow me to demonstrate. Aina, sit.
Aina opened her eyes, stood up, and sat on the steps to the pool without delay.
Now, do a handstand and somersault.
Aina obliged, and It was amazing.
All right already, I got the idea. Quit doing the magic voice thing.
No, you haven't seen the important part. Aina, good job. Who's a good girl? Oh, are you going to act all coy now that your boyfriend is here? Who's a good girl? You are. Yes, such a good girl.
Aina started shaking and drumming her legs so fast that the floor threatened to break.
Hey, that's our thing. You stole it from me, you cheater.
Seb raised her eyebrows condescendingly, but added nothing else. A quick, worried glance back at Aina revealed that she seemed completely unconcerned about both this extremely uncharacteristic display and literally anything else in the world.
You sure you're okay with this?
Aina cocked her head at the question. Okay with what? She seemed to ask, as if this was the most natural and evident thing she had ever done in her life.
I don't know what happened. She went from trying to drown me to being at my beck and call. Not even a smidge of attitude about it until you came back.
Yeah, she could be a little bit like that. Foaming at the mouth, raging one moment, and the next she's asking you for sugar. I got this nagging feeling in the back of my hunch there's got to be some itty-bitty tiny detail you're keeping from me all the same.
You can just see for yourself if you don't believe me.
Adder sat down next to Seb, observing as she pulled Aina in towards her. She started scratching her jowls to demonstrate the smith's mansuetude.
It ain't like I don't want to believe you, ma'am, but I reckon you'll forgive me if I'm a little suspicious after that whole science tirade.
Who knows? Maybe I really fried her mind when I let her eat me.
Bite! Bite! You made her bite you! Oh, why are you like this, Sip?
Because it bothers you. Why else?
Seb lifted her arms up, releasing Aina from her bliss, only to shift her attention to Adder.
Won't you let me bother you both?
Bother us! Gee, Sip, like you ain't done enough of that today.
Adder's eye shifted towards Aina. Seb immediately grabbed him by the cheeks and turned his head back to her.
Are you really going to ignore me twice and then crawl back when we're alone? Keep playing dumb until the end of the world so no one gets hurt? Wouldn't you rather be honest with yourself for once and seize everything you want? You don't have to choose every time, Adder.
All right, that's it. Time out. This ain't no time to be talking or kissing or any other ends you got in your head right now, ma'am.
So when will it be? I'm afraid that between getting eaten by a pack of beasts and murdered by the fiancé you stole me from, my schedule may be a little tighter than usual in the foreseeable future. You want to spend our time wisely? Then get over whatever deep denial complex you two have, and let's just
Focus on the situation at hand. Right, boss? It ain't like we got them self-denials or any of that radish stew you're trying to feed us. We're, Smiths. Yeah. Iron-hearted folk. We're the best at staying focused. You won't distract us from our mission.
I'm not trying to... Fine. You're hopeless. I give up. Just humor me for a second, and I'll leave you alone. Hold your hand for me. That's all I ask. If you two die without ever having held hands, I'm going to be really mad at myself.
Adder and Aina looked at each other. Then they looked at Seb.
Just holding hands? And you promise you'll lay this whole thing down?
I promise. You do still remember how I feel about promises, right?
Adder couldn't even keep his gaze on his boss as he wrapped one of his massive hands around her hand, and wrist and forearm. Aina held onto one of his fingers in exchange.
Your form is unorthodox, to say the least, but it will do. Now, what are we thinking?
Do we have to do this?
Indulge me.
I'm thinking one of these shovels would be enough to scoop her up.
Gods, I know. And how does that make you feel?
Good. Embarrassed. It makes me feel like I want to protect her.
Great breakthrough. But is that something you want, Aina? Do you want Adder to protect you and hold you and tell you what a nice little boss you are?
Aina glanced away like she hadn't heard.
I asked you a question. Is that what you want?
Quit it, Sep. You know she can't give you an answer.
It's a yes or no question. She can move her lips or bend that tree stump she has for a neck, I presume.
Well, she don't gotta answer you.
I suppose that's true. Nobody has to do anything if you boil it down to a matter of personal obligation. But you can't just trudge through life expecting others to understand your every need without letting them know how you feel. That's not fair.
Oh, and you're an expert on fairness now.
You're the one who taught me that, you clodpole. Why are you being so difficult about this? I'm giving her the chance to tell you she wants you herself.
She can't tell me.
But you can know.
She can't let me know what she don't think to begin with. Leave her alone.
Sep surrounded Adder's neck with her arms, apparently leaning in for a hug. Then she let herself fall backwards into the pool, dragging the boy's head underwater with her. Adder struggled for a moment, flailing and trying to pull away. But when he finally opened his eye, he saw her. Those intense blue eyes staring back at him, dying to be heard.
I don't care if she's a beast, a doe, or a dehorned gazelle, Adder. Eka talks about Aina like she was her sun, her stars, and Baitatse itself. Trust me, I know. Mom used to talk about me that way. I have no idea how long one of their cycles is supposed to be, but seeing how feeble Aina's connection to the world is, there should be no way any of them could remember her past a couple of days, not unless they were being actively reminded. I'm trying to get close and wear her down for a reason. I know it's cruel, but I beg you, stop getting in the way of my plan.
Adder had to hold back the physical need to sigh underwater, turned instead into a stream of bubbles leaking out of his snout. He focused on thinking with his mouth closed.
Look, Sep, you're real smart and I'm not. You know something's wrong way before I do. I got no clue of curses and cycles and whatnot either. But I've never had a problem remembering Aina. Not a single day since I've known her.
That's the thing. You see her every day. You don't have to remember anything. Even just hearing her name would be enough to jog your memory most of the time. We've been through this. You wouldn't even know if you had forgotten. This is not the time to lull on loyalties anymore. I need your help to learn if she's truly devoted to you, or if she's just been fattening you up so her sister could bite off your...
Adder put a whole hand over Sep's face and lifted her head out of the water, effectively shutting her up. He only followed her out tentatively once it was clear she got the message.
Fine. Have it your way. Show me I taught you better than we both thought.
He'd be the one dealing with this friend. No magic or conspiratorial whispers required. Adder took a long look at Aina, who was just looking at them from the steps, clearly unbothered by the apparent murder attempt. He heaved a real sigh this time.
Boss, you know I love you, right?
Aina's blush shone bright under her white hair. She nodded quickly with her head low.
I'm told I'm real darn fond of secrets for how much I talk. Thing is, I've been thinking a lot about what love is these last few moons. No, that ain't quite right. I've been thinking about what it means to love someone. What it means to me, anyway. I always thought loving meant caring. Wanting someone special to be well all the time. To be that perfect little shine in your eyes. Because I thought loving meant seeing only the good parts of the one you love. Defending them, even from your own thoughts. Sep here made me realize that when you live pretending someone's perfect and
everything's fine in the world because you're together, you're not looking at what's in front of you. You're loving a whole other person you made up in your own head.
Adder took a deep breath. Seb sent a concerned look in his direction, but he shrugged it off.
I'm sorry, boss. I've really tried my best to let it be. To make like I couldn't notice when things were out of place. But this whole thing is a lot. It's way too much. It's way, way, way past that. We're all in danger. Or at least, me and Sep are.
Eina's throat moved with a gulp. The corner of the room stood narrow and suffocating, in contrast to how big Adder seemed looming over her.
I love you. And I know somewhere down there, you love me too. That's why I think it's time you came clear about some things.
I mean, she can't do that pantomime thing. Are you a beast?
Are you a beast, Aina?
Aina furrowed her eyebrows, confused. She shook her head slowly, unsurely.
You don't know either?
She's not quite telling the truth, but it doesn't seem like she's lying.
You think the patron could take such a big chunk of memories out of someone that they forget what they are?
I couldn't even start to guess. She may have never known to begin with.
Zeb sounded a little more affected than usual as she trailed off. Is Eka your sister? Or actually, I want to ask all of these.
So I'm gathering you really knew the beasts then. Eka's your sister after all, huh?
Aina shrugged her shoulders until her neck disappeared. Then she nodded.
So you're a beast too then?
Not necessarily.
Say what? Why are you replying for her now?
Because you're making stupid assumptions about how families work. Just stick to the facts.
So is Pertok still your dad?
So wait, is the patron your pa for real, or?
Aina nodded, confused. She didn't seem to understand what Adder was getting at.
What in the name of the Hatsa is for real supposed to mean here?
I don't know, maybe she's adopted, or…
And what's that to you?
Right. Sorry.
Did you know about the attack?
When we were alone, Eka said you'd asked to get me on board. You wanted me to be part of the crew. So that means you knew they'd be coming, didn't you? What they'd be coming for.
Aina shut her eyes with a fear Adder had never seen in her. She nodded.
You really did know about this whole thing.
I mean, I don't think Adder would... I think Adder would kind of assume the best. You poor thing. Having to live with that knowledge.
That's fine. There wasn't no way you could have… Yeah, I bet they were just dragging you along, you poor thing. I mean, I know if you could have done something about it, you would have. My Aina ain't so heartless as to let something like that slide. No way. No way.
Aina's mouth hung open. Her lip trembled, forming words devoid of all sound.
What is it? If you know something, you gotta tell us. This isn't about you and me anymore, boss. Yes,
I'm sorry. I know you can't really say anything, but
I don't know what I was thinking. This is literally painful to watch. You tried it your way, Adder. Now step aside. I'll get all the information we need.
what did I say? Hands off! Don't you dare stick your mind pokers in her.
We need to know what she's hiding.
She gotta choose to share with us.
And we suddenly have all the time in the world for that? When will you stop coddling her?
I'm not...
I didn't just escape getting burned in a steak to get roasted for a feast.
Leave Ana alone! She'll tell us when she tells us, Kay?
Adder clung to Ana, trembling like a newborn fawn, far more scared than the girl in question looked. This told Sepp everything she needed to know.
I should have realized sooner. Of course you were just projecting all along.
What's that supposed to mean?
Nothing. It means nothing at all. We all want to protect ourselves in the end. I can hardly blame you for it. Let's just leave it here. I don't want either of you exploding.
Sepp turned her back against them, whispering something only she knew under her breath. Master and apprentice finally crossed glances again, as meekly as they did everything important, but so very differently from any other time. It was the first instance ever recorded in history of Ana losing a staring contest. The smith simply joined Sepp in looking away from Adder as she reassuringly patted his arm. It was fine. He'd be fine. They'd all be fine. The sound of a bucket falling made them turn around.
What?
Adder took a long look at the situation. His rundown shack, Geoff, Sepp, Ana, himself. A theater play in the making of the murder mystery kind.
I just want to say, for the record, that whatever you do with your nights is your own business. But how come we have 2 people petting a golem instead of 1 now?
Hey now, we weren't petting her.
When you saw us.
No need. I can feel the heat in the air.
That was steam, Geoff.
Steam? Steam? I should have let them steam you in the trial this morning. Backstabber, traitor, a fine friend you are.
Oh, you have any of those left?
Sure he does. He's got me, and I can promise you that Sepp got no clue we knew each other at all. See, turns out I met her like a year ago, and I kind of helped her, and then we met again in the slums, and she offered to tell my fortune, and...
Fortune teller, yes, and I'm a gardener. In my many years working with tools, I've learned to call a spade, and a hoe.
And yet you still have the gall to call yourself both a bard and my brother.
Easy now, you two. That's not how bros should talk to each other.
Good thing we're not siblings then.
Oh, how I wish if that were true. Then I wouldn't have to bear the need of removing my eyes for having witnessed such a scene. Ugh!
Always the drama queen.
You, of all people, should not be talking about queens, honey.
Then you should not be lecturing me on who I lay with. Or are you just jealous I got to him first?
Oh, it's on, you little...
Can you two shut your snouts for 1 second?
All their neighbors echoed the thought with far less gracious words. Adder pulled his hands back little by little, shifting his remaining eye between the two.
Geoff, we got something real important to tell you. So how about we all take a nice, deep breath and calm down for her?
Calm down! You should have thought of that before taking my sister to bed!
I wouldn't have even looked in her direction if I'd known that. I mean, to be fair, it hasn't happened once since I found out, so...
This was a recurring thing?
Okay, I think we'll continue from here. in the next episode. So yeah, things are getting quite interesting, and Lynn seems to be very well entertained. We'll see where things end up going from here next time. Thank you so much for watching and spending a little of your time with me here today. It was lovely to have you. Please remember to be kind to yourself. Have a lovely rest of your day, and I will see you again next time.